LNW tribe, and welcome to the path of the Jaguar. I'm so excited to be here sharing with you today. My name is Dr. Cyndi Myers, and I'm a chiropractic physician in Portland, Oregon. 17 years ago, I graduated and started my own practice, and that practice is called Integrative Chiropractic and Wellness Spa. And I really have had a very broad, general practice over the years. So it's multicultural, multi-generational. I've seen a lot of interesting things over the years, and I've seen a lot of the same things over the years. My patient base, age-wise, is really broad. My youngest patient has been 6 days old. My oldest patient, probably about 95 years old. So with that, a lot of my patients do receive gentle chiropractic adjustments, and those are treatments that are applied to the body to create more ease and balance within the body itself. So usually people come in with symptoms and they're looking to get rid of those symptoms, and a lot of times there's things we can do with the body to help relieve some of that. But oftentimes what I see is that it's repetitive overuse, postural distortions that start to cause pain over time. Of course, there is trauma, physical or emotional, that causes lots of aches and pains for people too. But a lot of times I see similar things. And it really comes down to, people tend to start to not trust their body when it's giving them pain all the time. So one of the things I do as a chiropractor is, I'm holding space for whatever they bring to me. And then I'm trying to find a way to help them understand their body and love their body more, at the same time getting some of the results they're looking for. And so over the years, through continuing education, I've had to really diversify my skill set to be able to, help anybody who presents to me. And so that has led me to doing continuing education in things like cranial sacral therapy, visceral manipulation, adjusting the organs, lots of nutrition, herbalism, vitalistic and holistic type herbalism, as well as astrological herbalism. I've done training in yoga, breath work, all sorts of different things over the years, just to give me a broad skill set to be able to help just about anybody. But I think the most challenging thing I see with patients is that their mindset, especially in certain age groups of folks, the mindset of, I'm getting old, I'm gonna have this forever, it runs in my family. While those things may have some truth to them, it really helps when you believe that the body can heal itself, because it can, and oftentimes our mindset can limit that for us. So 6 years ago, I started on my plant medicine path, and that was really my path of the wounded healer. And so I started working with plants since then, spiritually, practicing shamanism as a way of life, and just realizing that I am a frequency holder. And in order for me to help raise the frequency around myself, I have to be able to maintain my own. And so I had some things, and I have some things to learn on how to maintain and do that at a high level. So that led me to the quantum plant healing. About 14 months ago, I found Bella and David, and I started with the Rainbow Bridge immersion. And it was wonderful. I learned a lot. It was great. And so then I signed up for every immersion after that. And I think the last one I did was ending with the Return of the Light in December. And at that point, I had realized, okay, I'm anchoring my human heart and connecting it with my cosmic heart, and I want to align my free will with divine will. So then I decided I wanted to start working with the 13-day wave spells consistently, on my own. So I started that process, and I would pick different plants and basically hold my own immersions. I've done plenty of plant dietas, with other types of shamanic practices. So it's kind of like that. And then once the quantum compass started coming out, that became really, really helpful, because it added some more context for me which was great. About 4 months ago, I started working with the Stellar Nation information, and man, mind-blowing information. So I got the books, got my Antares code, took about 3.5 weeks and got through both big books, and then had a reading with Leslie Shankman that just was like connected so many dots for me, like literally like answered so many questions about my life and myself, and it was really cool. So with that said, an important part of this path of the Jaguar is refining our spiritual process and the initiation into integrity and sacredness. And that means that we need to love our bodies and treat them as sacred because they are part of our evolutionary process. And, this is elegant technology. Like, it is a blessing to have a body. And so we need more self-love that'll purify, regenerate, and activate within ourselves. And so today I'm wanting to share how to easily do a self-care process that will stimulate the cleansing and the healing of the waters in our bodies that may have become stagnant or blocked. But everything's connected. No system ever works alone. So our fluids, our fascia is all connected with tensegrity and alignment. So creating a consistent daily practice will create a loving relationship with the body and facilitate healing on all levels. So let's talk about the lymphatic system. So it's powerful. We actually have more lymph fluid than blood. And lymph is fluid that actually drains from the cells of our tissues and then gets carried back to the heart via the lymphatic vessels. And they are flat. They don't have valves like arteries and veins do. So it requires motion from the body to pump it back to the heart. Now, lymph nodes are nodes along the path that filter the lymph as it makes its way back to the heart. So it's cleaner by the time it gets there. They're all throughout the body, and they cluster at certain points. So these areas are important because if congestion and blockage occurs, then the tissues become stagnant and potentially painful, and that will block healing. So manual manipulation of the skin can encourage drainage at these spots and can be done daily. So lymphatic drainage is one of the techniques we're going to talk about today. We'll use different tapping and rubbing techniques, which I'm going to explain before we actually stand up and do this together. So my hope is that you'll be able to come back to a certain point in this video and be able to do it with me daily if you don't remember how to do it on your own after I go through it the first time. So just remember, it's gentle pressure. So the different techniques we're going to be applying are fingertips on the skin. And when we push just enough to sink in a little, but not too much, because if we push too hard, then we actually close the lymphatic vessel. So we want, when our fingers go back and forth, to create a little friction on the surface of the skin, but not too much. Not that much, but that much. So we'll do friction this way, right? So we're rubbing. Then we're going to do tapping with our finger pads. Then we're going to do a gentle tap with a gently closed fist like this. So those are the 3 different tapping techniques we'll use. Again, it needs to be gentle. The areas of the body that we're going to be addressing are the clavicle, so it's the collarbone here, and we're going to start here because this is where the lymph actually drains back into the heart, is right in this area. And for most folks, it's on the left-hand side that it actually drains. So we're going to be starting with the clavicles, then we move up behind the angle of the jaw, right below the ear. Then we move to the sides of the nose, then the frontal bone. Then we're going to come, then the frontal bone, around the head, back down to the clavicles, move over to the arms. So then we're going to do the inner elbow, the armpit, the chest. Then we'll go down the sternum. We'll do the abdomen, the sides of the body, the flanks, the low back. Then we come to the front of the hips, the inner thighs, and then the back of the knees. So that's the flow through the body. And then we're gonna be doing, after that, some heel drops and some spinal twisting. But please, like, this is a warning, if you've had surgery or a new injury or chronic injury and any of these things are contraindicated, do not do them. If you start to feel pain from something you're doing that seems too much, don't do it, okay? So just peel back, do something different, but trust your intuition, okay? So I'm going to pause and shift. All right, so let's go through this lymphatic drainage together. Maybe save this point in the video process, so if you need to come back to it, to go through it with me daily until you kind of memorize how to go through it on your own, this can serve as a tool for that. So we're gonna start with posture. So when we do this, we want to put our skeletal system in alignment. And so when we do that, we want to space our feet about hip distance apart. We want to put a little bend in our knees, just a micro bend. Take some of that locking tendency out of the back of the knees. You'll want to lift your chest and bring your shoulders down and in the back, okay? So this is our starting neutral posture. So when I refer to that in the future, this is what I'm talking about. So before we start our practice, one of the things we want to do is check in with ourselves. You know, how am I feeling right now? So then when we're done with the practice, we can check in again and see, do I feel different? You know, and that's valuable information, right? A really good time to do this technique is in the morning. So you wake up, you've been sleeping all night, which involves posture, right? So you get up, you get the energy flowing, get the fluids flowing, right? And then you can start your day that way, which is a really, really good way to do it. Another good time to do this technique is in the shower, because the water makes the surface of the body a little more slippery and it's a little easier to get that glide and friction. Okay, so let's get started. We've checked in, we've got our neutral posture, and we're gonna find our clavicle bones. So these are the bones right here on the front of our chest. And if you hike your shoulders, you can actually hook onto the clavicle. We're gonna start right above the clavicle, and we're gonna do that back and forth, gentle friction. And so each spot, we really want to spend about 10 seconds, right? So you can actually get through this pretty quickly once you have it memorized. Okay, then we're gonna come right below the clavicle, back and forth, doing the friction. And I actually usually do the gentle fist tapping in this spot, because it's kind of a broad area. Perfect. So then we move up to a really important spot behind the angle of the jaw, right below the ear. A really big lymph node sits there, and it's the one that drains our head. So brain fog, all that stuff, this is going to help drain any congestion and stagnation going up on in the cranium. Okay, and then I do a little tapping. So then the tapping, we can then take up onto the face, to the sides of the nose. And this is what helps drain our eyes. So if we get any puffiness in those areas, this will help drain that. Okay, and then take that tapping up to the frontal bone, third eye, frontal sinus, tap right in here. And then we're gonna take that tapping across the top of the cranium, down the back, around the side, back to the front, across the top, down the back, around the side, back to the frontal bone, bring it back down to the sides of the nose, bring it back down to the angle of the jaw, and then gently pull the fluid down towards your clavicles. Okay, now once we've cleared the head, we can start with the extremities. So we're gonna go to the inside of the elbow. There's a cluster here of lymph nodes, so we're gonna go back and forth gently over this area. Again, like 10 seconds minimum. You can do longer if you wanna do that. Then you move towards the armpit. Lots of lymph nodes in here, lots of drainage. And then the chest. Good, let's do the other arm. Medial elbow. Good. Move to the armpit. And chest. Good. And then we're going to come to the sternum. It's the long bone in the front of our chest, and we're just going to tap along that. Good. And now when it comes to the abdomen, we're going to follow the direction of digestion, okay? So we're going to go up the right, across, down the left, across. So gentle tapping. Up the right, across the top, down the left, across the bottom. Nice and gentle. Good. And so now we're going to move to the side flanks. So we're going to tap the sides up and down. Good. Now put a little bend in the knees, a little more. Flex forward a little bit, and now we're going to shift to the back. So we kind of want to hit the area of the sacrum, the low back, kind of tapping up into the kidneys. You know, those are responsible for the fluid and mineral balance in our body. So giving those kidneys some love. And then also by tapping on the sacrum, we start to stir up that Kundalini energy. Good. Now coming around to the front of the hips. Right here is the front of the hip socket. And we're going to gently tap here. Kind of in this area, being careful of anatomy. And then we're going to widen our stance a little more, bend our knees a little more, and we're going to take this tapping down the inner thighs, okay? So down and back, and so we're tapping the inner thigh like this. To the knee, back up to the groin. Good. Then the last spot is behind the knees, and so for this one, you're going to want to bend your knees a little more, flex forward a little more, make sure you engage your core, and you're going to hit the back of your knees. So in a standing position, it's going to look like this, but you're going to be bent in this position, tapping the back of your knees. Perfect. So now that we've tapped through the body, we're going to do some heel drops. And so these are really easy. You're going to gently lift your heels up and then drop down. And that drop is going to send a percussion up your skeletal system. And that percussion is going to trigger your bones to increase more density and more integrity, okay? So it's also contracting your calf muscles, which then helps send the fluid, the lymph, back to your heart, okay? So after you've done about 10 to 20 of those, then speed it up. And you really want to let your arms go. It looks kind of funny, but it actually kind of feels good just to let it all go, right? So let it bounce around a little bit. Good, and then we're going to spinal twist. So for this, widen your stance a little more, bend your knees a little more. As you turn, let your arms be heavy and just follow the rotation. Allow them to gently kind of hit the body. Do this about 20 times. Good, and so once you've completed that, set your neutral posture. Open your hands forward, close your eyes. Take a deep breath into your heart space. And exhale. Inhale deeply, sending that energy into your feet, into the center of the earth, and anchor there. And then pull that energy back up to your heart space. Another deep breath in through the heart. Send that energy up to the sun, anchor to that sun. Exhale back into your heart space and check in. How do I feel? Do I feel different than before I started? That's valuable information. All right, so after you go through this is a great time to, if you have a practice of breath work, to do that, because that diaphragmatic breathing also helps pump the deeper lymph nodes that we have in our abdomen. Super, super awesome to do that. Or switch into like a restorative yoga or vinyasa yoga flow, stretching, whatever it is that you actually like to do, because that's the most important thing, is that we need to move our body and we need to do things we like to do with our body, and then the body really then appreciates that, right? So whatever it is that you do, this is a great time to do it. Also, if tapping is just not really what you want to do, there is another way to move the lymph, and that's with brushing, body brushing. So the most important piece is that you need a soft brush. It can't be super stiff bristles. They do need to give, and you need to use really gentle pressure, okay? But the idea is that you brush from the extremities towards the heart. So you would do the hand, forearm, shoulder to the heart, do the back side up to the heart. So doing the arms that way. With the legs, you start at the feet, brush up the legs, up the abdomen, the chest to the heart. Then with the legs, which I already said, it's a little harder to get the low back, so you do your best at brushing that. And for folks that do this, they will use sometimes a toothbrush to brush the finer details of the anatomy of the head towards the heart. So that is an option too. But really, one of the most important things is you gotta drink water, because if we're trying to move the waters of the body because they're stagnant and stuck, but we also don't have enough water, that makes it really hard for the body to do that. So, they say, the magic number is whatever your body weight is, you cut that number in half, and that's how many ounces a day you should drink to walk, talk, and breathe. Okay, so if somebody weighed 200 pounds, that's 100 ounces a day. That's a lot of water. A lot of folks don't drink that much water. You're going to be going to the bathroom a lot, and that's sometimes pretty inconvenient for people. So we need enough water. And if you're drinking coffee, alcohol, or exercising, that means you might need more than that even, right? And then it brings in that, you might also need electrolytes. Because a lot of times when we get a lot of water, we're filtering a lot through our kidneys, and we can sometimes need a little more help with the electrolytes. So I hope this information's helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to just, message me. But otherwise, I wish you the best on your path. I hope that you love your body, and I hope your body knows you love it. Thank you so much.